It was very late at night. The huge mansion stood quiet, almost dead. No lights were on. No voices. Only silence. The billionaire's black car slowly stopped in front of the gate. He came home earlier than usual. His face was hard, his eyes tired. It had been a bad day. Meetings failed. People lied to him. Money could not fix everything. He stepped out of the car and walked inside the mansion. Every step echoed. This house was once full of life. Now it felt empty. He loosened his tie and took a deep breath. His heart felt heavy, as it always did when he came home. His twins were upstairs. His children, born rich but born broken, paralyzed, unable to speak, unable to move. Doctors had said it clearly. There is no hope. The billionaire remembered those words every night. As he walked toward the stairs, something stopped him. A sound, very soft, almost unreal. It was humming. He froze. No one ever made noise at this hour. The staff knew the rules. Silence was important for the twins. The sound was coming from upstairs. From the twins' room. His heart started beating faster. He slowly walked up the stairs. Each step felt heavier than the last. The humming continued. Gentle, calm, almost like a mother's song. But his wife was gone. She died years ago. So who was singing? When he reached the hallway, he saw a dim light under the twins' door. The door was half open. That was strange. Very strange. He walked closer, his breath slow and careful. His hand reached the door, but he did not push it yet. He looked inside through the small opening, and what he saw made his blood turn cold. The black maid was inside. She was sitting on the floor, not standing, not cleaning, sitting. Both twins were in her arms, one on each side. She held them close to her chest like they were her own children. Her head was down. Her lips moved slowly as she hummed the same soft tune. Her hands were shaking. The billionaire's eyes widened. This maid was quiet, invisible. She never spoke much. She never looked anyone in the eyes. She was just there. What was she doing with his children? Anger rose in his chest. Fear followed. He was about to step inside and shout. Then something happened. One of the twins moved. Just a little. So small that most people would miss it. But not him. The tiny finger of the baby twitched. Once. Then again. The billionaire stopped breathing. His mind screamed, no. Impossible. The twins never moved. Never. He blinked hard, thinking his tired eyes were playing tricks on him. He looked again. The maid did not notice him. She kept humming, tears falling from her eyes onto the floor. Her arms tightened gently around the babies. The finger moved again. Clear this time. The billionaire felt the ground slip under his feet. His heart pounded so loud he was sure she could hear it. He held the door frame to stay standing. This can't be real, he thought. Doctors from all over the world had seen his children. The best machines. The best hospitals. The best money could buy. All had said the same thing. No movement. No response. No future. And now, this? The maid slowly lifted her head. Her face was full of pain and love. She whispered something to the twins. Her voice was too low to hear. The humming stopped. For one long second, everything was still. Then the twin made a soft sound. Not a word. Not a cry. But a sound. The billionaire's knees went weak. He felt dizzy. He felt afraid. And for the first time in years, he felt hope. But hope scared him more than fear, because hope could break him again. He stepped back silently. His heart was racing. His mind was on fire with questions. Who was this woman really? What was she doing? How did she make the impossible happen? He did not enter the room. Not yet. He walked away, his hands shaking now too. Behind him, the door slowly closed. The truth stayed hidden. For now. The billionaire did not sleep that night. He sat alone in his dark study, staring at the wall. The mansion was silent again, but his mind was loud. The small movement of that tiny finger kept playing in his head again and again. It was real, wasn't it? He closed his eyes, and the past came back. Years ago, this same house was full of laughter. His wife, Anna used to run through the halls, smiling, calling his name. She was gentle, kind. She loved this mansion, but more than that, she loved the family they were building. When she told him she was pregnant with twins, he cried. A billionaire crying in his office. That was the happiest day of his life. He promised her everything. The best doctors, the safest future, the perfect life. But life had other plans. The twins were born on a stormy night. Thunder filled the sky. Doctors ran everywhere. Nurses shouted orders. Hours felt like years. When the doctor finally came out, his face was pale. The words were simple, but they cut deep. They are alive. But something is wrong. Tests followed. Machines beeped. Days turned into weeks. Finally, the truth came out. The twins were paralyzed. They could not move. They could not speak. The doctor spoke softly, carefully choosing words. They may never respond. They may never live a normal life. Anna broke down. The billionaire stood still like stone. He refused to accept it. He brought doctors from other countries, famous hospitals, new machines, new treatments. Money flowed like water, but nothing changed. The twins lay silent, still, their eyes open, but empty. Then one night Anna collapsed. Her heart could not take the pain. She died holding one of the twins' tiny hands. That night destroyed him. After her death, the mansion changed. No more laughter. No more music. No warmth. The billionaire became cold, angry, silent. He stopped holding his children. It hurt too much. Every time he looked at them, he saw Anna's face. He saw failure. So he hired nurses, caretakers, staff. And one quiet day, the black maid arrived. She was different. She did her work silently. She never complained. She never asked questions. She never judged. She looked at the twins longer than others, but she never crossed limits. Or so he thought. He never learned her full story. To him, she was just part of the background. Until tonight, the billionaire stood up from his chair and walked to the window. The moonlight fell on the garden. Everything looked calm. Too calm. His chest felt tight. That finger moved, he thought. I saw it. But fear whispered back. What if it was nothing? What if hope is lying to you again? He remembered how many times hope had hurt him before. He poured a glass of water, but his hand shook. He did not drink it. Instead, he walked out of the study. Slowly, quietly, he went upstairs. Outside the twins' room, he stopped. 2 guards stood at a distance. Nurses whispered softly. Everything looked normal. The door was closed now. Nothing strange. Nothing impossible. He almost laughed at himself. You're tired, he thought. Your mind is playing games. But then he heard it again. Very soft. Humming. The same tune. His heart jumped. The sound stopped suddenly. The door opened just a little. The maid stepped out. She froze when she saw him. Their eyes met for the first time. Her face showed no fear, only sadness, and something else, strength. She lowered her head slightly and said in a low voice, "They are sleeping, sir." That was all. She walked past him and disappeared down the hallway. The billionaire stood there, frozen. Sleeping? His children never slept peacefully. Never. Slowly, with shaking hands, he opened the door. The twins lay in their beds, calm, relaxed. Their faces looked different, peaceful. He felt his throat tighten. Questions burned inside him. Who is she really? What does she know? And why now? He stood there for a long time. The night was not over, and neither was the mystery. Morning light entered the mansion quietly. The billionaire had not slept. He stood near the twins' room for hours, watching their chests rise and fall. They looked calm, too calm. For the first time in years, they were not restless. He stepped back and closed the door gently. His mind was full of one name, the maid, but he did not know her name. That thought shocked him. She had worked in his house for months, maybe longer, and yet, she was almost invisible. No one talked about her. No one asked about her. She came early. She left late. She moved like a shadow. At breakfast, the billionaire sat at the long table alone. Silver plates, expensive food, No taste. He called the head of staff. Tell me about the maid, he said. The man looked confused. Which one, sir? The black maid, the billionaire replied. The staff member paused. She cleans the west wing, sir. Very quiet. Never causes problems. What is her name? The man checked his notes. Sarah, sir. Sarah. The name felt heavy. Has she ever been alone with the twins before? The billionaire asked. The man hesitated. She helps sometimes, when nurses are tired, but she never stays long. The billionaire said nothing. After breakfast, he watched from the balcony. Sarah was in the garden watering plants. Her movements were slow and careful. Her face looked tired, but peaceful. She did not look like someone with bad plans. Still, his heart did not trust peace anymore. He followed her quietly through the halls. She cleaned rooms no one used. She fixed small things no one noticed. She spoke to no one unless spoken to. But one thing was strange. Every time she passed the twins' room, she stopped. Just for a second. She closed her eyes and moved on. The billionaire felt a strange tightness in his chest. Later that day, he watched the nurses. They fed the twins, cleaned them, did their jobs. But there was no warmth, no love, only routine. When Sarah entered the room to help, the air felt different. She did not rush. She spoke softly. She touched the twins like they were fragile glass. One nurse whispered to another, "She is too attached." The billionaire heard it. That night, he pretended to leave the mansion. The guards relaxed. The lights went low. But he stayed. He waited. Hours passed. Then, soft footsteps. Sarah walked toward the twins' room again. The billionaire followed from a distance. She entered. He stood outside the door, his heart pounding. Inside, her voice was low. "You are not alone," she whispered. The billionaire clenched his fists. She began the same humming, the same song, slow, gentle. He opened the door just a little. She was sitting on the floor again. The twins were in her arms. Her eyes were closed. Tears ran down her face. This is not right, he thought. This is too personal. Suddenly, one twin made a sound. A tiny breathy noise. Sarah smiled through her tears. She placed her forehead on the baby's head. "You remember," she whispered. The billionaire's breath caught. Remember what? He wanted to step in, to stop her, to demand answers. But something held him back. Fear and hope. He stepped away silently. His decision was made. Tomorrow, he would confront her. And he knew one thing. Sarah was not just a maid. And this story was only beginning. Morning came slowly. The billionaire stood in front of the mirror, fixing his tie. His eyes were red, not from sleep but from thoughts. All night, one image stayed in his mind. Sarah, the twins, that song. He walked downstairs with heavy steps. Sarah was already working. She wiped the long hallway floor carefully, as if the house belonged to her. "Sarah," he said. She stopped at once. She turned around slowly. "Yes, sir?" Her voice was calm. No fear. No surprise. He studied her face. Dark eyes. Tired lines. A quiet strength. "I need to talk to you," he said. She nodded. "Of course, sir." They walked into the empty sitting room. Sunlight entered through tall windows, but the room felt cold. The billionaire closed the door. "You have been spending time with my children," he said. She looked down. "Yes, sir." "Without permission," he added. She took a deep breath. "I never meant harm." "That is not my question," he said firmly. "What are you doing with them?" Silence filled the room. Sarah folded her hands. They were shaking slightly now. "I talk to them," she said. "I sing. I hold them." "Why?" His voice rose. "Doctors said it is useless. They feel nothing." Her head lifted. "That is not true," she said softly. His heart jumped. "You think you know better than doctors?" he asked, anger and fear mixing together. I feel better than machines," she replied. The billionaire laughed once, dry and bitter. "Feeling killed my wife," he said. "Hope killed her." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I lost someone too," she whispered. He froze. My baby, she continued. He was sick. Doctors said the same things. No hope. I held him every night. I sang to him. Her voice broke. He did not live, she said. But I learned something. What? The billionaire asked. That love reaches places medicine cannot. The room went silent again. You touched my children, he said. That is a line. I know, she replied. If you want me to leave, I will. She bowed her head. But please, she added, watch them. Just once. Really watch them. He turned away, struggling to breathe. Finally, he spoke. You will stop, he said. No more nights. No more songs. She nodded slowly. As you wish, sir. She walked toward the door. Wait, he said suddenly. She stopped. 1 week, he said. I will watch. If nothing happens, you leave. Her eyes widened. 1 week, she repeated. A small light appeared in her eyes. Thank you, she said quietly. As she left the room, the billionaire sat down heavily. He felt weak. He felt afraid. Because deep inside he knew, if she was right, everything he believed was wrong. And if she was wrong, this would destroy him. Either way, there was no turning back. The week began in silence. The billionaire watched everything. Every movement, every breath, every small sound. Cameras were placed near the twins' room. Nurses were told to report every detail. Doctors were on call. And Sarah? She followed the rules. No late nights. No holding the twins alone. No songs. But still, something felt different. On the first day, the twins slept longer than usual. Their faces looked relaxed. Their bodies were not stiff like before. The billionaire noticed. He said nothing. On the second day, one twin opened his eyes when Sarah entered the room. Not wide, just a little. A nurse whispered, probably nothing, but the billionaire's heart skipped. On the third day, Sarah asked softly, may I speak to them? He hesitated. Only words, he said. No touching. She nodded. She stood near the bed and spoke quietly. Good morning, she said. You are safe. Her voice was gentle, steady. The twins' breathing changed. Slower, deeper. The billionaire watched from behind the glass. His hands were cold. On the fourth day, something happened. While a nurse cleaned one twin's hand, the fingers slowly closed. Not fully, but clearly. The nurse froze. Did you see that? She whispered. The billionaire stepped forward. I saw it, he said. His voice shook. The nurse checked the machines. All signs are normal, she said. This should not be happening. That night, the billionaire could not stop thinking. What if Sarah is right? On the fifth day, Sarah hummed softly while standing far away. She did not touch them. The same tune. The twin turned his head slightly toward the sound. The room went silent. The billionaire's chest tightened. Stop, he said suddenly. Sarah stopped at once. I'm sorry, she whispered. He did not answer. He was staring at his child. At that small, clear movement, hope walked back into his heart. Slowly, carefully. On the sixth day, the doctors arrived. They tested reflexes. They checked nerves. They watched recordings again and again. This makes no sense, one doctor said. The billionaire stood tall. It makes sense to me, he replied. On the seventh day, he stood alone in the twins' room. No nurses, no doctors, no Sarah. He leaned close to the bed. My son, he whispered. Can you hear me? Nothing. His heart sank. Then, a finger moved. Once, the billionaire covered his mouth. Tears filled his eyes. This was no accident. This was real. But the biggest question still remained. How? And what else was Sarah hiding? The doctors returned early the next morning. Their faces were serious. Their voices were careful. Machines were brought in. Wires were attached. Screens lit up the room. Numbers moved. Lines shook. The billionaire stood near the wall, watching everything. His heart was beating fast. Let us be clear, the lead doctor said. Small movements can happen. They do not always mean recovery. The billionaire said nothing. He had heard this before. Tests continued for hours. One doctor tapped the twins' hands. Another checked their eyes. Another spoke loudly near their ears. No response. The room felt heavy again. The billionaire's hope began to fade. Then Sarah entered quietly. She stood near the door, not speaking. The doctor looked at her. "Please wait outside." She nodded and stepped back. As she left, she whispered softly, "You are not alone." The billionaire felt anger rise. This was not the time for words. The doctors finished their tests. "There is no medical reason for improvement," the lead doctor said. "What you saw may not continue." The billionaire clenched his fists. "Then explain this," he said. He played the video. The screen showed the twins' finger moving. Clear, slow, real. The room went silent. The doctors watched again and again. "This should not happen," one doctor whispered. "But it did," the billionaire replied. The lead doctor sighed. "Something is stimulating them," he said slowly. "We do not understand it yet." The billionaire looked toward the door. "Let her in," he said. Sarah returned. Her hands were folded. Her eyes were calm. "What are you doing with my children?" the doctor asked. "I talk to them," Sarah replied. "I sing. I hold them with care." "That is not treatment," the doctor said. "Neither is giving up," she answered softly. The room froze. The billionaire raised his hand. "Enough," he said. He turned to Sarah. "You will continue," he said. "Under watch." The doctors protested. "This is risky," one said. "So is doing nothing," the billionaire replied. The doctors exchanged looks. "We will observe," the lead doctor said. "But do not expect miracles." The billionaire looked at his children. For the first time, he believed in one. The rules were clear. Sarah was allowed near the twins only under watch. Cameras stayed on. Nurses stayed close. Doctors checked reports every day. Still, something changed. The room felt warmer. Sarah sat beside the twins, not on the floor this time. She did not rush. She did not force anything. She spoke slowly, like every word mattered. "Good morning," she said. "It is a beautiful day." The twins lay quietly, but their breathing was calm. The billionaire stood behind the glass, watching. He had seen many nurses come and go. None of them looked at his children the way Sarah did. She looked at them like they were already alive. Not broken, not lost, alive. She told them simple stories. About the sun, about the garden, about birds. Her voice was soft, steady, full of care. One twin's eyes followed her. Slowly, the nurse gasped. "Did you see that?" she whispered. The billionaire nodded. His throat felt tight. Later that day, Sarah held one tiny hand. Just lightly, with permission. "Feel this," she whispered. "You are here." The finger curled around her thumb. Just a little. Sarah smiled but did not cry. She had learned patience from pain. The billionaire felt something break inside him. That night, he stood alone in the twins' room. He spoke for the first time in years. "I am your father," he said softly. "I am sorry I was not here." His voice shook. The twins did not answer, but one of them made a small sound. Not a cry, not a word, a sound. The billionaire closed his eyes. Tears fell. From that night on, he came every day. He watched Sarah. He watched the twins. And slowly, he began to believe. But belief brings fear. Because deep down, he knew, if this hope died, it would hurt more than before. And somewhere inside the mansion, a secret waited to be revealed. The change in the twins could no longer be ignored. Nurses whispered in the halls. Doctors argued in low voices. Reports were checked again and again. And Sarah, she stayed quiet. She did her work. She spoke to the twins. She sang the same song. Always the same song. The billionaire noticed that. One evening, he stopped her in the hallway. "Where did you learn that song?" he asked. Sarah froze. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she looked down. "My mother sang it," she said softly. He nodded, but his heart felt uneasy. That night, he sat alone in his study. He opened old files, staff records, background checks. Sarah's file was thin. Too thin. No family listed. No emergency contact. No past job details. Just one line stood out. Child deceased. The billionaire's breath caught. The next day, he asked Sarah to sit with him. She looked nervous but calm. "You lost a child," he said gently. Her hands trembled. "Yes," she whispered. Silence filled the room. "He was born like them," she continued. Still, silent. The billionaire felt his chest tighten. "Doctors said he would never respond," she said. "They told me to stop hoping." Her eyes filled with tears. "I did not listen." She told him how she held her baby every night, how she spoke to him, how she sang. "The same song?" the billionaire asked. She nodded. "For weeks," she said. "One night," he moved. The billionaire leaned forward. "But it was too late," she whispered. His heart was weak. Her voice broke. "But in that moment, I knew he heard me." Tears fell freely now. "When I saw your twins," she said, "I felt the same silence, the same pain." The billionaire said nothing. His hands were shaking. "I am not a miracle," Sarah added. "I just refuse to give up." The billionaire looked at her. For the first time, he believed her completely. But outside the room, someone was listening, and not everyone believed in hope. Morning sunlight barely touched the mansion, leaving long shadows on the polished floors. The silence inside felt heavier than usual. The twins were in their room, still motionless as ever, while the black maid quietly went about her chores. The billionaire sat alone in the grand study, staring at the papers on his desk but not really reading them. His mind kept wandering back to the night before, the scene in the twins' room that had shaken him to his core. He couldn't stop thinking about that small, almost invisible movement of his child's finger. How could it happen? He had spent millions on the best doctors, the best treatments. Yet his children had never shown even a tiny sign of improvement. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. "Sir, a letter came for you," said the butler, holding a small envelope in trembling hands. The billionaire raised an eyebrow. "A letter? Who sends letters these days?" he muttered, reaching for it. The envelope was simple, no return address, no stamp of importance. Just his name written in neat, careful handwriting. He tore it open. Inside, a single sheet of paper lay with just a few words. "Believe in what you cannot see." His eyes narrowed. Was this a joke? A prank? He glanced around the empty study, but there was no one there. His heart started to pound. Something about the words felt personal. He folded the note and put it in his pocket, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling creeping up his spine. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get the image of the black maid holding the twins out of his mind. The way she had looked at him, the subtle shake of her hands, the calmness in her eyes, it all didn't make sense. He decided he needed answers. Walking slowly to the twins' room, he noticed the maid was already there, preparing the morning feed. She glanced at him and smiled faintly, as if she knew exactly what he was thinking. He couldn't tell if it was comforting or unnerving. "Good morning, sir," she said softly. He didn't respond immediately. He just watched her. Every little movement she made seemed deliberate, careful, almost purposeful. He felt a strange curiosity mixed with fear. Who was she, really? And why had he never noticed the depth of her presence before? The twins lay in their beds, still silent, still paralyzed. But for some reason, the billionaire felt a flicker of hope he hadn't felt in years. Something in that letter, in the way the maid handled his children, made him believe, maybe, just maybe, a miracle was possible. He swallowed hard. "I need to know how you do it," he finally said, his voice low but steady. The maid looked at him. Her eyes seemed to hold centuries of wisdom. "It's not about doing, sir. It's about believing. Believing that even what seems impossible can happen." The billionaire felt a chill. Those words reminded him of the note he had received. Could it be connected? He didn't know, but something inside him told him that the answer was close, closer than he ever imagined. For the first time in years, he felt a strange mix of fear and anticipation. The kind that comes when you're on the edge of discovering something life-changing. And at that very moment, one of the twins moved slightly. A blink, a tiny twitch of the finger. The billionaire froze. His heart raced. Was this real? Was he imagining it? Or was this the beginning of something extraordinary? He looked at the maid, who only smiled softly, her eyes calm and knowing. "Sir, sometimes miracles arrive quietly," she said. The billionaire nodded slowly, feeling the weight of years of despair lifting just a little. He didn't yet know how or why, but he knew this. Nothing in his life would ever be the same again. And somewhere, deep inside, he felt the first spark of hope. The billionaire could hardly sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the slight movement of his twin's finger, the way the maid had held them, the calm look in her eyes. His mansion, usually so quiet and controlled, felt charged with an invisible tension. Morning came slowly. Sunlight filtered through the heavy curtains, painting golden stripes on the marble floor. The twins lay in their room as always, their bodies still, their faces serene. But the billionaire's mind was racing. He had to understand what the maid was doing. How could she bring life to children that no one else could reach? He found her in the kitchen, quietly preparing breakfast. She moved gracefully, her every action precise, almost ritualistic. Her calmness made him feel both anxious and comforted. "Tell me," he said finally, his voice firm but curious, "what are you doing with my children?" The maid paused. She looked at him, her eyes deep, almost like she was peering into his soul. "It's not what I'm doing. It's what they feel," she said softly. "They are listening. They are learning even if they can't speak. They are absorbing love, trust, hope." He frowned. "But they've been paralyzed for years. Doctors say there's no chance. How can they understand?" She smiled gently. "Sometimes the mind and the heart are stronger than the body. Sometimes what seems impossible is just waiting for someone to believe." Her words echoed in his head. Could it really be that simple? He had spent millions, hired the best doctors, but no one had ever told him about this, about belief, about hope. He followed her silently to the twins' room. She picked up one of them, holding the child close to her chest. She whispered something he couldn't hear. The billionaire watched, mesmerized. Slowly, he noticed a tiny movement, a finger, a toe, a small twitch. "Sir, watch carefully," the maid said. "Miracles don't always shout. Sometimes they whisper." The billionaire leaned closer. He could see the faintest spark of life, like a candle flickering in the dark. His heart pounded. Could it be real? Was this the first step toward a miracle he had longed for years? Suddenly, the maid handed him a small, folded notebook. "This belonged to my grandmother," she said. "She taught me everything about helping those who seem lost or silent. Read it carefully, sir. It will explain more than I can say in words." He opened it slowly. Inside were sketches, short notes, simple instructions, ways to communicate without words, ways to awaken the mind and heart. Diagrams of touch, of gentle encouragement, of small rituals. His pulse quickened. Every page seemed to unlock a hidden possibility he had never considered. He looked at the maid, astonished. Why are you helping them? You could have just done your job and left." She smiled, calm as ever. "Because some children, some people, deserve more than what the world says is possible. They deserve someone who believes." The billionaire swallowed hard. He felt a lump in his throat. For the first time, he understood that no money, no power, no doctor could replace the power of faith, love, and patience. Suddenly, one of the twins blinked. Then the other. A tiny smile appeared on one of their faces, faint but unmistakable. The billionaire's eyes widened. He took a step closer, his hands shaking. This is real," he whispered. The maid nodded. "Yes, sir. And this is only the beginning. Patience, hope, belief. That's all it takes to open the door to miracles." He watched, holding his breath, as the twins slowly responded to the maid's gentle guidance. The mansion, once so silent and cold, seemed alive with a new energy, a quiet, profound miracle unfolding. And in that moment, the billionaire realized that everything he had known about life, about limits, about possibility, was about to change forever. The billionaire could hardly focus on anything else that day. The mansion, the meetings, even his expensive meals felt meaningless compared to the quiet miracle happening in his twin's room. Every twitch, every blink, every tiny movement seemed like a whisper from hope itself. But curiosity gnawed at him. The maid. There was something more, something he couldn't quite place. She moved with quiet purpose, almost as if she carried a secret too heavy to speak. He decided he had to know. That evening, after the twins were asleep, he approached her in the dimly lit hallway. "I need to ask you something," he said carefully. "I need to know who you really are." The maid paused, her hands folded calmly. She didn't look nervous, didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled softly, like someone who had been expecting this question. "I am just a simple woman," she said. "But sometimes, simple things carry the greatest power." The billionaire frowned. "This isn't simple. You've done things no doctor could ever do." "How? Why?" Her eyes darkened slightly, a shadow of a story buried deep within them. "There are secrets in every family, sir. Secrets that even wealth cannot hide. Cannot tell you everything. Not yet. But one day you will understand." The billionaire felt a chill. She spoke like someone guarding a treasure. Or a warning. Something told him this maid's story was connected to his twins in ways he could not yet see. He watched her leave the hallway, disappearing into the twins' room, and noticed something strange. A faint old scar on her wrist, almost hidden under her sleeve. He felt a surge of curiosity. Where did it come from? Why did it matter? Unable to sleep, he wandered through the mansion, thinking about everything. The letter he had received, the notebook, the subtle miracles, and now this hidden scar. Every clue seemed like part of a puzzle he had only begun to notice. Hours later, he returned to the twins' room. They were still lying quietly, but he noticed something new. One twin's hand was resting lightly on the maid's arm. Connection. A recognition. Something deeper than words. The billionaire whispered under his breath, almost to himself, "What are you hiding?" The maid turned to him, her eyes calm yet full of unspoken power. "Patience, sir. All will be revealed in time. Some truths are too dangerous to rush." He swallowed hard. Danger? What could be dangerous in a mansion filled with wealth, luxury, and silence? His mind raced with possibilities, fear mixing with fascination. And then, a soft sound broke the tension. The twin twitched again, this time more noticeably. The billionaire's heart raced. Could it be a coincidence? Or was it connected to the maid's hidden past, something she had not yet shared? The night felt alive, thick with secrets. Shadows moved differently in the corners, as if the mansion itself was holding its breath. The billionaire realized he had stepped into something much larger than he had imagined. Something beyond money, beyond control, beyond even science. And deep inside, he knew one thing. The maid's secret would change everything. The question lingered in his mind as he left the room. Who is she really? And what is she hiding from me, and from my children? The next morning, the mansion was quieter than usual. Even the staff seemed to move slower, as if sensing the tension in the air. The billionaire couldn't stop thinking about the maid's words the night before. Some truths are too dangerous to rush. He decided he had to find out more. While walking past the servants' quarters, he noticed a small, worn-out box tucked in a corner. It was unusual, it didn't belong there, and the way it was hidden suggested someone wanted it kept secret. His curiosity piqued, and without thinking, he picked it up. Inside, he found old photographs, yellowed letters, and a small, delicate necklace. The photos were of the maid, no, not just the maid, the girl from her childhood, surrounded by people he didn't recognize. But in every photo, she was holding or near someone who appeared injured, weak, or sick. He frowned. What was this? A letter on top caught his attention. The handwriting was elegant, almost old-fashioned. He unfolded it carefully and read, "To those who are chosen, your gift is rare. Use it with patience, with love, and with silence." The world may not understand, but you will know. The billionaire's heart raced. Gift? Chosen? What could it mean? His mind flashed back to the twins. Their subtle movements, their tiny smiles, the way they responded only to her. Could she have a gift? Something beyond human understanding? He felt both awe and fear. Awe because he was witnessing a miracle in real time. Fear because the maid had hidden this entire life from him. How many secrets did she carry? How far did they go? He returned to the twins' room, clutching the box. The maid noticed immediately. Her calm eyes lingered on him, but she said nothing. "Where did you get that?" she asked softly, her voice steady. I found it," he said, trying to sound casual. "What does it mean? Who are you, really?" She sighed, a soft, sad sound. "I've always been me, sir, but my life has been a journey of preparation. My family, they knew this gift runs through our blood. They trained me to help children who cannot speak, who cannot move, to awaken them in ways science cannot." The billionaire's mind whirled. Gift? Training? Her family? He had assumed she was just a maid, a caretaker. But now everything changed. She was something else entirely. A healer, a miracle worker, someone whose abilities had been hidden from the world. He looked at the twins. One of them moved a finger again. His heart pounded in his chest. Could this be the result of her training, her knowledge, her gift? The maid noticed his gaze and smiled softly. "Patience, sir. They will awaken, but it takes time, love, and trust. Just as my family taught me, I must guide them carefully. No rush, no force. Only belief." The billionaire felt a lump in his throat. Years of despair, countless sleepless nights, expensive treatments. All of it had led to this moment. Not money, not science, but faith, patience, and a hidden gift no one could explain. He realized he was witnessing something extraordinary, something beyond his understanding. And deep inside, he knew he had to trust her, to let her lead, even if he didn't fully understand. But a question lingered in his mind. If she came from a family of gifted healers, why was she here, working in his mansion, serving his children? Why had she hidden her past? The answer wasn't clear yet, but the billionaire sensed that the truth, when revealed, would shock him more than anything else in his life. And somewhere, in the quiet corners of the mansion, the first signs of a real miracle were starting to show. The days passed slowly in the mansion, but each day brought something new. The twins, who had been silent and still for so long, began to show small signs of life. A finger twitched here, a blink there, a faint smile barely visible, but enough to make the billionaire's heart race. He spent hours watching them, sometimes silently, sometimes leaning close to see every tiny movement. He couldn't help but glance at the maid often, studying her calm and patient demeanor. She moved around the room with quiet grace, speaking softly, almost like a whisper, coaxing life from his children with her gentle touch. One afternoon, the billionaire sat near the twins, holding one of their hands in his. He could feel a faint warmth, almost as if life itself was slowly returning. He whispered, "Can you hear me? Can you feel me?" A tiny twitch in the other twin's hand answered him. His heart leapt. For years, he had only seen emptiness and silence. And now hope. The maid watched quietly from the corner, her eyes calm but filled with an unspoken understanding. She knew this progress, small as it was, meant everything. She had seen this before. Miracles often started quietly, almost imperceptibly, before growing stronger. "Sir," she said softly, approaching him, "they are listening. They feel your love, your presence. That is why you see these small signs. The mind must awaken before the body can follow." He nodded, barely believing what he was seeing. "I don't understand it, but I see it. I feel it. They're responding to you, or maybe to both of us." She smiled faintly. "It is not about who they respond to. It is about connection, patience, trust, and love. That is the bridge to the impossible." Later that evening, the billionaire returned to the study, still in awe of what he had witnessed. He opened the worn notebook the maid had given him, reviewing the sketches and notes about gentle techniques, communication without words, and ways to awaken a silent mind. Each page now felt more alive than ever, as if the instructions themselves carried a quiet power. His mind wandered back to the letter he had received weeks ago. Believe in what you cannot see. The meaning of it was now clearer than ever. He had believed, yes, but only partially. The maid had shown him that belief alone was not enough. It had to be paired with patience, love, and guidance. He decided to spend the night in the twins' room. Sitting silently beside their beds, he whispered stories he had never told anyone before. Stories of his own childhood, of dreams he had, of fears he had hidden even from himself. He watched closely as the twins' tiny fingers twitched in response. Their eyes followed his movements. Their breaths grew more even, more alive. For the first time in years, the billionaire felt a spark of hope he thought he had lost forever. The maid approached quietly, kneeling beside him. "They are ready to take the next step," she said. "But it will require courage from you and from them." He looked at her, eyes wide with anticipation. "What do I need to do?" "Just keep believing," she said softly. "And never let fear guide you. The moment you doubt, they will feel it. This is a journey of the heart, not of the mind." The billionaire nodded, determination rising within him. He realized that everything he had valued before, money, power, control, was meaningless compared to the life of his children. He had been given a second chance, a glimpse of hope that he could never have imagined. And in that quiet room, as the twins' tiny movements grew more noticeable, he felt it, an unspoken promise. A promise that one day, very soon, his children would awaken fully. But just as he leaned back, exhausted yet filled with hope, the maid's expression suddenly changed. Her eyes, usually calm and gentle, flickered with something urgent, almost fearful. "Sir, there is something you must know," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Something from my past. Something that could change everything." The billionaire froze, a chill running down his spine. What could be more shocking than what he had already seen? And in that moment, the mansion felt colder, darker, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. The billionaire's heart pounded as he stared at the maid. For weeks, he had been consumed by hope, watching small miracles unfold with his twins. But now, fear mixed with anticipation. Something in her eyes told him that her secret was bigger than anything he had imagined. She knelt closer to him, her hands folded carefully in front of her. "Sir, there are things about me, things I have kept hidden to protect your children," she said softly. He swallowed hard. "What is it? Tell me, please." She hesitated, as if choosing her words carefully. "I come from a family, a long line of people with a rare gift, a gift to awaken the silent, to heal those whom the world has given up on. But it comes with a price. Misuse it or reveal it too soon, and it can bring danger to those you love." The billionaire's eyes widened. "Danger? But I thought you were helping them." "I am helping them," she said firmly. "But there are others, people who would exploit this gift, people who would stop at nothing to control it. That is why I hid it. That is why I came here quietly, as a maid, to protect your children and my secret." He felt a chill run down his spine. For weeks, he had seen the subtle miracles, the twins' fingers twitching, tiny smiles, small blinks, but he had never imagined that her gift could be sought after, feared, or dangerous. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" he asked, his voice tense. "Because I had to be sure," she said softly. "Sure that your children were safe. Sure that your heart and your belief were strong enough. This gift, it responds to faith and love. It cannot flourish under fear or doubt." The billionaire nodded slowly. He felt both awe and guilt. He had been so consumed by his desperation for his children's awakening that he had never considered the dangers she might face. She reached out gently to the twins, her hands moving carefully, her touch full of quiet power. "They are ready to awaken further," she whispered. "But it is a delicate process. One wrong move, and the progress could be lost." The billionaire watched, mesmerized. Every subtle twitch, every tiny gesture, seemed to hum with energy. It was more than hope, it was magic. Real, undeniable, and fragile. Then she spoke again, her voice dropping even softer, almost a whisper. There is one more thing, sir. Something you need to know about me. My family, we have enemies. People who would kill to harness this gift. That is why I have remained hidden. That is why I came here quietly, to serve you without revealing who I am. Fear tightened in the billionaire's chest. Enemies? Killers? For a maid who had already helped his children awaken? How could such danger exist in the quiet, golden halls of his mansion? He wanted to speak, to ask how he could help, but she held up a finger gently. Not yet. For now, you protect the children. You believe. You stay patient. That is all that matters. He nodded slowly, understanding. The stakes were higher than he had ever imagined. The miracles he had witnessed were not just gifts. They were treasures that could attract greed, jealousy, and danger. And in that moment, the billionaire realized that the mansion was no longer just a home. It was a sanctuary, a fragile, delicate world where miracles could grow, if they were protected. He glanced at the twins. One of them's hand twitched again, a small, hopeful movement. He felt tears prick his eyes. After all these years of despair, this tiny spark of life felt more precious than anything he had ever owned. The maid's gaze met his, calm but resolute. Remember, sir, she whispered, this gift is fragile, but with love, belief, and patience, your children will walk, they will speak, and they will live fully. But the world outside must never know. The billionaire swallowed hard, understanding the weight of her words. This was bigger than him, bigger than wealth, bigger than science. The journey ahead would be filled with both wonder and danger. And as the twins twitched again, faintly smiling in their sleep, he knew one thing with certainty. Nothing in his life would ever be the same again. The mansion felt unusually quiet that evening. The usual hum of servants and distant city sounds seemed to fade into nothingness, leaving only the heavy air of anticipation. The billionaire paced the study, thinking about the maid's words from the night before. People who would kill to harness this gift. He had spent years protecting his wealth, but now he realized some things were more valuable than money. His children, their lives, their miracle, and the secret maid who had brought the first spark of life into their paralyzed bodies. Suddenly, a faint sound reached his ears. Footsteps, not inside the mansion but outside. Too measured, too careful to belong to any ordinary visitor. He froze, straining to hear. The sound stopped, then silence. His heart raced. Could it be what the maid had warned him about? Enemies, people who wanted her gift? He moved quietly toward the window, peeking through the heavy curtains. Shadows moved near the gates. Figures in dark clothing watching the mansion, waiting. His pulse quickened. These were not ordinary intruders. They were deliberate, trained, and dangerous. He turned, looking for the maid. She was in the twins' room, humming softly as she guided their small hands through gentle exercises. Her calmness was reassuring, but he could see a flicker of concern in her eyes when she noticed him watching. "Sir," she whispered, stepping closer. "They are here. I can sense it. People who want what I carry. They are not far. You must protect the children. I will handle what comes." Fear gripped him, but he nodded. He knew she was right. He had to stay strong. The children needed him, and he couldn't let panic take over. He ran to the study and grabbed his phone, dialing the head of security. "Lock every entrance. No one enters without my permission. Stay alert. We might have company." Meanwhile, the maid continued her gentle work with the twins. She whispered words of encouragement, her hands moving with precision and care. Her calmness contrasted sharply with the tension building outside. The billionaire stayed near the window watching the shadows. They were patient, calculating, as if they knew exactly what they were after. And suddenly, it hit him. Their target wasn't money, jewels, or power. It was the maid, her gift, and by extension, his children. He clenched his fists. "I will not let anyone harm them." he whispered to himself. Hours passed. The intruders did not make a move, but their presence lingered, like a dark cloud over the mansion. The billionaire stayed vigilant, barely blinking, every sense focused on protecting the family he had long thought lost. Then, a sudden noise, a branch snapping outside, made him spin around. He saw the maid tense, her hands hovering over the twins. Her calm demeanor was gone for a split second, replaced by a sharp focus that seemed almost otherworldly. "Sir," she said, her voice low but urgent. "They are close, very close. Be ready." The billionaire felt a surge of fear and adrenaline. This was no longer about hope or miracles, it was about survival. His children's lives, the miracle unfolding in his mansion, were in danger. He looked at the twins, barely blinking, small movements of fingers signaling life, hope, and resilience. And he realized that everything he had feared losing was finally within reach. If only they could survive the night. The maid's eyes met his, calm, resolute yet fierce. "Trust me, sir. You must trust me completely." He nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. There was no turning back. The danger was real. The enemy was near, and the next move would decide everything. And as the shadows lingered outside, the billionaire realized one terrifying truth. The miracle he had witnessed, the awakening of his children, had drawn attention. Attention that could destroy everything he loved if he was not careful. The mansion was cloaked in darkness, save for the faint glow of lamps near the twins' room. Outside, the shadows of the intruders lingered, like predators circling their prey. The billionaire's heart pounded in his chest. This was the moment he had feared and waited for ever since the first flicker of life in his children. The maid moved silently, her hands guiding the twins through gentle exercises, her voice soft but firm. Her eyes held a calm determination, as if she was drawing energy from somewhere deep inside herself. "They're ready," she whispered to the billionaire, who stood at the door, tense and alert. "But you must stay calm. Fear will disrupt everything." He nodded, swallowing his fear. For years, he had relied on doctors, on money, on control, and had failed. Now, he had only belief and trust, and he would need every ounce of it. The intruders made their move. Shadows flitted near the gates, attempting to breach the mansion's defenses. Alarms blared faintly in the distance, but the head of security had already anticipated this. Guards emerged silently, surrounding the property. The intruders froze, realizing they had underestimated the billionaire's preparation. Inside, the maid continued her work. She whispered words of encouragement, lightly touching the twins' hands. Slowly, their movements became more coordinated, more deliberate. Their fingers twitched, toes flexed, and faint sounds, almost like whispers, escaped their lips. The billionaire watched, tears welling in his eyes. This was no longer subtle. This was life returning. Real life. His children were responding, awakening before him in ways he had never imagined possible. Suddenly, one twin lifted an arm, then the other. Their heads turned slightly, following the maid's guidance. A soft smile appeared on one face, a blink of recognition on the other. The billionaire's heart soared. "It's happening," he whispered, almost unable to believe it. "They're waking up." The maid glanced at him, her eyes calm but shining with quiet triumph. "Yes, but be gentle. Let them come fully into life at their own pace." Then the unthinkable happened. One of the twins spoke. Just one word, barely audible. "Mama." The billionaire froze. He had never heard his children speak. The word, so small and fragile, broke through years of despair. He felt tears streaming down his face, a mix of joy, relief, and disbelief. The maid smiled softly, gently holding their hands. "They are ready for the world, sir, and they will need love, patience, and guidance, just as you have given them." The other twin followed, whispering another word, "Papa." The billionaire dropped to his knees, hugging them carefully, afraid to let go. The mansion, the wealth, the years of loneliness, they all melted away. Only this moment mattered. The miracle he had waited for, the life he had feared lost, was here. Outside, The intruders realized the mansion's defenses and the billionaire's resolve were stronger than they had imagined. They retreated silently, disappearing into the night. But inside, the family's bond had grown unbreakable, protected not by walls or security, but by trust, patience, and love. The maid stood back, watching quietly. Her secret, her gift, had fulfilled its purpose. The children were awake, alive, and the billionaire finally understood the depth of her power, not just in healing the body, but in awakening the soul. He looked at her, gratitude and awe written across his face. You gave them life. You gave them a future. I don't even have words. She smiled gently. No words are needed, sir. Only belief and love. That is all it takes. For the first time in years, the billionaire felt peace. The mansion, once silent and cold, was alive with laughter and soft voices. The twins' eyes sparkled, their movements growing stronger, their smiles brighter. And in that quiet, golden room, the billionaire realized a truth more valuable than all his wealth. Miracles are real. They are fragile. They are powerful. And they arrive when belief, patience, and love come together. He held his children close, whispering softly, feeling their tiny hands clutch his fingers. The maid stood beside them, calm, composed, yet smiling, the keeper of a secret that had changed everything. And for the first time, he knew that life, hope, and love were stronger than any fear, stronger than any obstacle. The miracle was no longer hidden. It was real. It was alive. And it would never be forgotten.